The email that was sent on Saturday night was more of a general acknowledgement of the number of student deaths that we had experienced in sort of holistically over the semester and in a pretty short period of time. There was a high level of concern that was emerging that because of the number of students that we had lost, that there was a lot of speculation about the causes of death. In particular, speculation that we had had a large number of students who died by suicide. While the university in many cases doesn't know the cause of death, we felt like it was really important to correct misinformation that we were hearing, in particular that these students had died by suicide. So that was really the thinking behind it, was that we wanted people to have the accurate information that we had, acknowledging the limitations, to kind of acknowledge just the overall impact of this, and then also to make sure that people broadly were aware of the resources that were available on campus. To think about it, it's really clear. I want to be really clear. We're not trying to hide anything from anybody. These are very public notifications. We've had some conversation about, well, why is the information so brief? Part of that is we want the notifications to go out in a very timely way, and we want to be able to let people know as soon as possible. We want to make sure we don't send out a notification that has wrong information, or that hasn't been, in many cases we know that a student's family may not want certain information sent out. So that's the reasoning behind keeping them relatively brief and factual, is to make sure that we have the information right, and that we're respectful of the family's wishes. If we think about it in a year where we might have 10 or 15 deaths, that number of emails going to such a large group of people itself can really be traumatizing and concerning to those folks. And they might we don't want people to react and have that effect if it's someone that's maybe they wouldn't have known. If we think about a city of 60,000 people, we wouldn't necessarily get a notification every time someone passed away. So it's really not to hide it, but rather to say, how do we make sure the communications are going to the people that are impacted, that need to know, so that they can get the support and the resources they need. Yeah, so we've had 8 students die since the beginning of this semester. For way of context, that number varies a lot on our campus. If we think about our campus as a small city of 42,000 people, typically in a normal academic year, that number is anywhere between 4 and 15, actually. So while the number varies widely, I think what's unique about what's happened this year is that the number of deaths that we've had in such a very short period of time, and that by itself has an impact that goes beyond the actual number of deaths. We don't know. It's really clear to understand how cause of death is determined. That's really determined with a sudden death by the coroner, and there's a whole investigation process that happens. It takes weeks to determine that, and the university may or may not actually receive that information. And there may be different wishes on the part of the family about how widely that information is shared. What we wanted to share and what we did share is what we do know is not true, and we absolutely have no indication that these other deaths were deaths by suicide. Teams have been really working, through the weekend, and will continue to work over the coming days and weeks. We send counselors out to meet with students in groups, to meet with individual students, to meet with family members. We know that it's a process that we call postvention, and we know that it's really important that when someone experiences a loss or a grief that they receive that support immediately, and continue to receive it over the coming weeks to months. So our team is working to do those postventions. We work with groups of students. We also, in collaboration with the Office of Crisis and Wellness, reach out to individual students. We have a lot of students who might call us and say, you know what, I'm doing okay, I'm going to get some resources, but I'm worried about my friend. And our campus teams will reach out to that individual to try to make sure that they are doing okay. We've seen incredible support in students over the last few weeks and few days, where many of what we're hearing from students is, you know what, I'm doing all right, but I'm actually worried about someone in my class or in my house. And we think that's really important, that students let other people here at the university know when they're worried about somebody else.